I'm Stephanie.
And we're here to talk to you today for the Beekeepers Buzz in the Northeast region for the month of May. Wendy was unable to film with us today, so we have a special guest, Stephanie, who's going to help us talk about what we need to do in the month of May.
Yep, happy to be here.
In the Northeast region of the United States, May is very active and a critical month for beekeeping. The weather is warming, plants are blooming, and bee colonies are expanding rapidly. Here's a breakdown of what beekeepers should be doing in May in this region.
Absolutely. So what we want to do in May is inspect our hives regularly. And by that, that's every 7 to 10 days. We want to check for signs of a laying queen, so eggs, brood pattern. We also want to look for queen cells. This is swarm season, so these are important things to look for. We also want to evaluate our brood pattern. It should be solid and healthy. Also, we want to be monitoring for diseases, check for chalk brood, American foul brood, and also we want to be checking for pests. Right. Also, super important is going to be swarm prevention, swarm time. So May is prime swarm season in the Northeast, Kim. We all know that. Super important is to provide space for our bees. We want to add supers or extra brood boxes as needed. Super important, no pun intended. Also, we want to split our colonies if they are crowded or showing any swarm signs. Remove or manage swarm cells if you don't want the colony to swarm.
Sure, yeah. You want to add your honey supers with dandelions, fruit trees, and early wildflowers blooming. Nectar is coming in. So you want to add those supers before the bees fill up all the available space. You want to monitor mite levels. Typically you want to treat in April before you add your honey supers. However, if you didn't get to do that, you might want to wait for the nectar flow to pass. But varroa mites can escalate quickly. So right now you could do, you could check for mites. You could do a sugar roll or an alcohol wash to assess the infestation levels, and consider treatment after the honey harvest. But keep an eye on those mite levels. And if you didn't get to treat, you may want to just wait for that nectar flow to pass, and once you've removed your supers, you could go ahead and do a mite treatment. You'll want to feed nukes or new packages. So if you've installed those new packages April, May, or you've made splits, you're going to want to keep feeding them the 1-to-1 sugar syrup ratio until they've more established, such as drawing out comb or raising brood. If you don't typically have to feed an overwintered hive, so you're good there. We also sell the Pro Suite, so if you don't want to make your own sugar syrup, it's a lot easier to buy the Pro Suite. It doesn't go bad, such as, you know, when you're making that sugar water, you're going to have to dump that out after a few days if the bees aren't taking it. And also, if the bees are not taking any type of feed that you're providing, you can just go ahead and remove that. Chances are they're out there and they're collecting enough nectar on their own that they might not need it. But especially for new packages, it is important to feed them as long as possible. You do want to stop feeding if you have an established hive and you want to add those honey supers. You want to remove food before you would add your honey supers. Established hives, like I said, they don't generally need feeding in May unless there's some sort of cold snap where you're living and they aren't able to get out and forage.
Right, exactly. So also we want to start preparing for summer management. It's that time. I know we got to get started with that, which is getting our equipment ready for the upcoming honey flow. This is our supers, our frames. We also want to start planning for queen replacement if it's necessary. May is a good month to rear or also introduce any new queens that you may need to do. Record keeping, super, super important. We want to keep track of our queen status, the brood health, our mite checks, and also our hive strength. Also really important, we all want to know what is blooming in our area. We want to know what our bees are bringing in because it's super important to know what our bees are bringing in. So common bloom sources in May for the Northeast in the US are dandelions, maples, willows, apples, cherries, other fruit trees, also clover and wildflowers start toward late May as well.
So talking about the nectar flow, typically we say around here, we're in PA, that when you see the dandelions covering your yard, it's typically when we're going through a nectar flow. And also, like we were saying, it's swarm season. So we wanted to talk a little bit about swarms. Maybe you're new to beekeeping and you're not really sure what that means. So why do bees swarm in the first place? Well, it could be for overcrowding. If there's a strong nectar flow with no place for the bees to go to store it, then chances are some of them will leave and go and find more room. Lack of ventilation. So if you're looking, and bearding can be just a typical part of beekeeping. When it is hot out, you will see some bees just coming out and just hanging out on the outside there. But it also can be an indication of them preparing to swarm. If you really just see a massive amount of bees on the outside, that could be a good indication of swarming behavior. An old queen or a failing queen, then they're going to want to swarm. They're going to want to go to a different location. Indistinctive behavior in strong, healthy colonies, especially between April and June. It's just a natural method of reproduction, just creating two colonies from one. Signs of swarming could be queen cells, especially at the bottom of the frame. So if you go to do your inspection and you notice a lot of they're going to look like a peanut shell on the bottom of that frame. That's a good indication that they are making queen cells. Like I said before, bees hanging out outside of the hive, such as bearding, reduced egg laying by the queen. Again, when you go in and you pull out your frame, you're wanting to look for eggs because that's a good indication that the queen has just been there laying. But if you don't see that, then you might want to, figure out, well, is there a queen in here? Maybe you want to look a little bit further to see if you can find her. Or a sudden drop in the population inside of the hive. Sometimes we don't even see that a swarm has happened, and you're still noticing bees coming in and out, bringing in pollen. So you won't notice until you go in and look inside of your hive, and maybe you're like, oh, I don't know what's happened. It looks like I'm missing a lot of bees here. They could have already swarmed, and maybe you missed it. That actually happens to a lot of us. So if it has, try not to worry too much about it. Also, you might see large amounts of capped brood. You're not seeing any eggs, but you're seeing all the brood is capped. That means they're older. So chances are they could have already swarmed at that point. So those are just a couple things to look for when you do an inspection.
Absolutely. A lot of new beekeepers don't know about swarms. Swarms are great though. They're great. You'll learn. You'll love them.
They're great for the bee population. That's really what they're trying to do, is just increase their population.
Absolutely. We love a swarm around here.
We do. It's really incredible to watch if you haven't seen one. I hope that someday you can, or maybe you want to watch a video. I'm sure we have some videos on. It's just an amazing thing to watch all of the bees just fly around. I want to say that's probably one of my favorite things is seeing that. Typically they are harmless, especially when they haven't really set up a spot yet, but they're really just forming that swarm. You still want to go in when you do catch the swarm. You want to go in with some proper,
PPE.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Always be safe. Always wear your PPE if you're seeing a swarm attempting to catch it. It is a very magical experience. If you can just see one, let nature do its thing, it's always a very nice thing to see. But if you're trying to prevent that from happening, we do have some strategies that you can kind of use to maintain that. And you can do some crowd relieving. You can add supers or brood boxes to provide more space for your bees. Everybody needs more space, and this is going to relieve some of that for the bees and help them to prevent that swarming. You also want to remove full honey frames and replace with drawn comb or foundation. That'll give the queen more room to lay and just give them room to do more things as well. Also, do your regular inspections. As I said earlier, very important to inspect every 7 to 10 days in spring to check for those swarm cells. You want to know what's happening. If you find the queen cells, see what's happening, research, call us. We can help you. Send us a picture. We're always happy to take a look with you and see what's happening. That's why we're here. You don't know just by looking. So do your research. We always recommend researching to see what's happening, but we're here too to help you. So also you can remove some of the bees, brood, and resources to create another nuke, a split. You can split your bees. This is going to reduce the colony's drive to swarm by simulating a natural swarm.
Right, yeah. Sometimes you can get ahead of it. We have a great video by Frank Licata on a very simple split that he's doing to prevent a swarm. So he did this split before his bees had a chance to swarm. And it's a really, really great video, very simple, easy to understand. So I would suggest checking out Frank's video on splitting a hive. And you don't necessarily need a queen on hand. You can do a split without having a second queen. It will help speed things up for you, because if you're to let nature take its course, when you split that hive, that new queen is going to have to go out and get mated, come back. It's going to be about a month before you're going to really have that hive get started again. And if you're looking for honey to collect honey from both of those hives, you may not be able to if you just let them rear a queen naturally. However, we do have queens available, and we should have them available throughout the season, right?
Absolutely. So give us a call if you need a queen. We're happy to help you get your hive requeens, help you split, whatever you need to do.
Sure. You can also open the brood nest. You can insert empty drawn comb between the frames of brood to give the queen a little bit more space. As Stephanie was saying, you could also replace the queen as well if you need to do that. And we are going to have them available throughout the summer months. Swarm control. So after cells are found, if queen cells are present and you suspect a swarm is imminent, you could do an artificial swarm, which would be to, like Stephanie said, move the queen and several frames of brood and bees into a new box. So you're making a second colony. You can do that, and that would be leaving the original colony with the queen cells to raise a new queen. So as we're talking about splits and swarms, we wanted to just show you a couple of things we have available to maybe you're wanting to catch your own swarm. So we do have the swarm trap here. We also have a great video from Jenna on our Mann Lake YouTube, where she talks about exactly how to use the swarm trap, which is very informative. I'm just going to go over it real quickly. It does come in two parts. You want to leave the lid on, but before you put the lid on, you'll want to use some swarm. We either have the Swarm Commander spray, just a few spritzes in there. We have the swarm lure here. I actually used this last summer and caught a few swarms and I put it in this nuke that we have here. And we have the vials where you just would crack it, put one in here and leave it. Or we even have the swarm lure, and this is really nice. Jenna has this in her video where you don't even need to remove it from the packaging. You just simply tack it inside of this swarm trap and put the lid on, and you can find a tree. This will mimic a tree here, so you can actually find a branch and perhaps just kind of wedge it in there. Just make sure that this is outward, because the bees will be going in this way. And we do sell straps, or you can use your own ratchet straps to kind of strap it onto the tree. Make sure the lid stays on. I have seen where some people actually tack it onto a tree, so you could do that as well. But like I said, Jenna has a great video on this swarm trap in particular.
Absolutely. And I have the Pro Nuke here just so we could show you just a little bit what it's about if you're going to do some nukes. It's two pieces as well. Pretty simple. It's got two entrances, one on each side, and it just opens and then it closes as well.
I find this one to be nice to use if you're just wanting to collect a swarm on the ground.
Yes.
I put it out by our apiary, and like I said, I used this last year. I put a couple drawn out frames in here and just let it go. And a swarm just really went right to it. It was pretty amazing. And then when you have all the bees in there, you just simply close the sides, and you can just take it where you need to.
Absolutely.
So we found that to be really helpful. We did want to mention that World Bee Day is on May 20th, right?
It absolutely is. And it's a United Nations designated day to raise awareness about the importance of bees and other pollinators, as well as the threats they face. It also serves to acknowledge their vital role in sustaining our ecosystems and ensuring global food security. What most inspires you about beekeeping, Kim?
Oh, wow. Well, I would say, it's really cool to see the swarms. I really just like watching the bees. I have a chair actually set up with my apiary at home, and I like to sit there and just watch them come in and out. I enjoy watching their little figure eights. I especially love to see all the different colors of pollen that they bring in, and then trying to figure out what plants or flowers that pollen has come from. But really, as we said before, like watching a swarm start to take place is really incredible. It just gives you a sense of peace and calming. I really enjoy that. How about you?
Yeah. Well, I enjoy the sense of peace it brings to me, but also the friendships I've built in beekeeping, such as the one that we've made through it. It's a very nice, enriching community, and just what bees do for everybody and our world in general.
That's
just
really
great.
Yeah, that's great. And the beekeeping community is so wonderful. I know when people come into the store here, we all like to talk to each other. We ask questions, how are your hives doing? What's going on with your bees? And when customers interact with each other, it's really nice. It's really great to see all that kind of interaction and helping each other out. We always will be available to answer your questions. We love to talk bees with you. We love to try to find out what new things. There's always something new to learn. I feel like I'm still a beginner, so I know there's a lot left to learn.
Me too.
Yeah. But we would love to hear your experiences. If you've had any swarm experiences, or if you have any questions about swarms, please leave that in the comments below.
So let us know what inspires you most about beekeeping, because you guys inspire us on a daily basis.
And we love to hear from you. I think we've wrapped it up for the month of May. If we've missed anything or you need to know about anything else, please let us know and we can elaborate in another video. We also plan to show you that Stephanie and I did an installation of a new package, so we hope to be able to show that to you as well. So if you have any questions with that, we'd love to hear from you. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.